Welcome, broadcasting to the entirety of the Super Smash Bros. Community. This is Beyond the Metagame. I'm your host, Peon, this week live from the Nintendo Switch eShop. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, AV. AV, how's it going, big boy?
You know, this place is filling up nicely. And speaking of it, I was actually here last night as well, and guess what I picked up?
Talk to me.
I picked up Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah, that game seems like it'd be up your alley. Have you checked it out?
Yeah, it's like, so I've played through like the first two sections of it, and it is absolutely up my alley. Not only is it like basically going around and ruining everyone's day, which I don't know why I'd say I relate to that so much, but I don't know. That was weird. Maybe some
AV,
part of
you
my
demon.
subconscious.
Yeah, that was like a Freudian slip. Like,
Yeah, it's like, but
you actually
like,
have some real impish qualities underneath your attractive Indian, surface.
All right. Well, I know I have some stuff to deal with after this episode, but other than that, like it's kind of like a puzzle game. It's you have to figure out the correct way of how to mess with everyone, and it's pretty amazing. And as I've been very vocal about in the past, my favorite games are always puzzle games. So
Yeah,
I
it
think
kind of
it's
seems
awesome.
like puzzly mixed with like I'm getting some Metal Gear Solid vibes, but with a cute, goosey exterior. I think I might get the game. My girlfriend loves games like with the whole cell shaded sort of like think Wind Waker kind of art style. So I might just pick that up for her. But it looks really cool, man. I heard it's pretty short, but frankly, as I get older, that sounds more and more up my alley. A game I could just finish quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but hell yeah, man! You been playing any Smash this week?
yeah. I've been playing. Some Smash. Honestly, sometimes life is just really crazy, so it's not been as much. I was not able to go to my local this week, but I was able to get in some practice time here and there, so I dedicated it to really labbing out some stuff that had rusted a little. A nice little dovetail from last week, so I kind of polished the rust off in some parts of my combos, and that kind of sums up my week. Did you have a more eventful week than me?
Yeah, well, more eventful. I would say so. I went to a tournament, kind of wiped off some of the rust that, yeah, like you were saying that we were talking about last week. Got top 8 in my local again, pretty stacked local. And now I'm kind of, as I mentioned last week, I'm putting a lot of time into trainer just because I'm having so much fun with him. But I'm really, oh my god, dude, my hands were literally hurting today. I had to like go back in the Dr. Kate McGee archives and do some stretching, do some icing. Like I literally spent maybe an hour and a half straight labbing a couple very specific and difficult Squirtle combos and just kind of labbing out, the kind of decision tree out of those combos depending on DI, depending on, you know, like Squirtle, he's so cool, but a lot of the things about him is that, a lot of his combos are true in very specific situations against very specific characters. So like there's a huge skill curve when it comes to learning which versions of which combos you should choose against which characters at which percent. It's like it's kind of overwhelming, and I'm just trying to get that muscle memory down, and it's been a lot of kind of boring training room with like some Bon Appetit cooking tutorials on in the background, just trying to like. But it hasn't been my most fun week of Smash, I'll say that. But I'm learning a lot. I'm kind of excited to use PT and trainer more now after these grind sessions.
I think that's really cool, especially the fact that 1 out of 3 of the characters that PT has so much depth. It's kind of mind-boggling to how complex and basically mentally taxing that character is. Something that's really interesting in an analog that draws from a different game, PM Squirtle is also incredibly complex, and there's all kinds of character and weight specific combos, and it probably has more tech than any other character in any Smash game ever. So I guess
I didn't know that.
yes, PM Squirtle is probably one of the most insane things that's ever been birthed in anyone's mind. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
well,
a work of art.
I will say it's worth it. I've been having so much fun with the character that I feel like I haven't been putting this work in for vain. In vain rather. I've been doing it because it'll have a really fun payoff. So I've been
Mhm.
enjoying it, despite it being a bit grindy. But speaking of Smash and preparing for Smash, I think that the BTM community, if you're listening to this right now and you're not preparing to enter the BTM third ever tournament, BTM Face Off Numero Trace, okay, that's happening this weekend. Okay, you're crazy if you haven't already entered. If you do want to enter, of course, go to the BTM Discord. All the information will be there. It's going to be on the 29th, okay, this Sunday, if you're listening to the podcast short after release, um, the 29th of September. To join, you will have to join the Discord server, and it will be at 3 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. Eastern time for everybody else. For all of you non North Americans, you'll have to do the math by yourself. But we'd love to have as many of you guys join as possible. It's been a long time since we've had one of these Discord tournaments. And it's always fun to see how everybody's doing. Who is the best BTMer? We're going to find out. AV and I are going to be live streaming as much of the matches as we can and providing our commentary. So it's going to be really fun, AV. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. Just as a heads up for prizes, so we are actually, in addition to the Hall of Fame spot that we always give to the first place finisher, and kind of a jumping off from the Elite Four idea that we had before, we are going to try and form something around the likes of a BTM PR. So other than any tangible rewards which are to be determined for Sunday, this will be important for a BTM PR that that may or may not happen. So it's in the works. So we'll let you know on the back end how much goes on with that.
But speaking of prizes, we have another funny announcement. So BTM patron and community member Giuseppe just DM me a couple of days ago saying, "Look, Peon, I have a couple of Rivals of Aether copies I purchased on Steam, and I'm going to be handing them out. But I think that we should do like a little contest. You guys can give them away. So Giuseppe, thank you for giving those to us to give out to you guys, the listeners. But basically, if you do want to enter this competition for a chance to win a free Rivals of Aether copy, all you have to do is go over to the BTM Discord again, and there's a channel called BTM, or what's it called, Davey? Like contest submissions. Is that a
Yeah,
good one?
it'll be called contest dash submissions.
Contest dash submissions, and there, what you can do is you could submit a written work, right? 100 words or less. And the prompt is basically, it has to be something about the BTM community, the podcast. Maybe it's about someone from the Discord. Maybe it's about like Michelle Obama tying me to a wall. Whatever you want it to be about.
Uh, uh,
Uh,
how can you
uh,
sum that up in 1,000 words or less? I mean, sorry, 100 words or less. Let's make it 1,000. I
did
think
I
that's
say
what we're gonna
100?
do. Yeah, you said 100, so
Oh,
let's
okay,
bump it up to
1,000,
1,000.
1,000. Right, and basically, AV and I are going to arbitrarily pick the 3 favorite ones we like. We'll definitely take like voting, we'll definitely take community response into account. Like, if you can go ahead and vote on your favorite ones, just like with the react emojis and stuff. But yeah, we want to see all your submissions, soon if you want that Rivals copy. But AV, I think that's all we have to plug for now. You want to talk about this week's episode?
Yeah, sure thing. So, something that we get asked a lot, and something that is very prevalent in the Smash community, is the idea of a bracket demon. And people often ask, okay, there's one guy that, or girl, or person that's just kind of beating me over and over again. And sometimes it's really hard to find a path forward. So, today we're going to try and plan for every person's different types of bracket demons.
Yes. Yes. I'm looking forward to talking about it, man. I know that recently I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but this is particularly interesting to me, given some repeat beat downs that I've experienced as of late. So AV, without any hesitation, all that and more in just 1 second. Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. This week, AV and I are here to talk about bracket demons. What the hell are they, and what's the path forward? AV, do you want to go ahead and just I don't know, give me your idea? Like that's a term that's used so often. Bracket demon. Like when do you think it's justifiable to actually use that term?
Right. So there's something called the Sorites paradox. I talk about, and
It sounds like
this is
you're like right now. It sounds like you're self aware and you're like parodying yourself.
it is both that and so much more, because this is essentially the Greek philosopher Sorites basically stared at this pile of sand and kept adding grains of sand to this pile. And so he asked, when does this pile of sand become a heap? And that's kind of the same paradox that you experience when trying to define a a bracket demon. So it's like, what is that X number of wins that someone needs to have over you in order to become a bracket demon? And it's undefinable. It's this categorical thing where you've just experienced it enough. For some people it's 3 times, for some people it's 7 times. So
Yeah,
I think it's just one of those things where you feel like this person has beat you enough, and you feel like you've been so mentally challenged by this person, regardless of how much you've played them, that they legitimately are a stopping block for you.
right. Well, but like there is a fine line though. Like some people, like let's say this, like let's say I went to a local, it was 5 people, right? And it was like for some reason me, MK Leo, and like 3 jabronis from Bible camp, okay? And look, I'm tearing through those jabronis from Bible camp week in,
Yeah.
week out. I'm getting the second place every time. But meanwhile, MK Leo is just I haven't even like taken a stock from him, right? It's just devastation in grand finals every week. Like, is it really fair for me to call him a bracket demon, or is that just MK Leo, and then everybody else is a jabroni from Bible camp? I feel like there's some sort of implicit undertone to the phrase bracket demon that suggests that your bracket demon is someone that you could reasonably expect to beat, but never do. Right? Am I crazy in thinking that?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that's very accurate. Although I think there's a lot of people who I think because most cases are not as extreme as that, a lot of people sometimes view like people who are much better than them as beatable, because
Right.
different psychological environments basically craft different stories.
But do
So
you think those Bible
sometimes
camp jabronis think I'm their bracket demon?
I think there's probably 1 out of 3 of them that considers that considers you their bracket demon, because
What are you? Was that like a play on the Holy Trinity? Because I said they were from Bible camp, or like why 1 out of 3? Like that seems like a very premeditated ratio, maybe.
I don't know.
Is this going to
I
talk about demons and like there's like some you're making this some sort of like angelic demonic relationship?
What, you were the one who brought up Bible camp, so
That
I
was
don't know why
me.
I don't know why you're trying to put this on me. Don't put this on me. But in any case,
Okay.
we could double down on the angelic imagery, and
Okay, I'm
but
down.
the thing is that overall, regardless of how of what the type of bracket demon is, which we will get into later, the most important thing is that something that we've talked a lot about a lot of the podcast, and especially something that Peon loves to talk about, is the idea of when you lose, it is a deeply emotional experience. Like someone has read you, someone has gone to the inner depths of your mind and has found something out about yourself that sometimes you don't even know. So the idea of a bracket demon is that someone has played you enough times to basically reach within you and pull something out that you didn't really want to see exposed.
Ooh, like some sort of like reaping of the soul. I feel like you're kind of suggesting.
Yes, and basically
Is that the
they
origin? Because I actually have no idea what like the actual FGC origin of the term bracket demon. Like
I
as
don't
long as
know.
I've been in the Smash scene, it's kind of been a term that I see thrown around. But I actually don't know the origin story. Like, You know, that
I
seems like
mean,
such a strong way to say that. You know.
yeah, it's like maybe they just like they are a demon that just started possessing you, and then someone or you have to exorcise yourself. We have to continue with this. So
Okay.
we will be teaching everyone how to perform self exorcisms.
Okay, that's not something I thought I'd be doing this afternoon, but we're
Well,
here and I'm going along with it. Yeah, like I want to acknowledge one thing. I mean, as we're kind of still on the definition of the damn term, um, I hear so many people use it like inappropriately. Like I'll hear like some 0-2 or a 1-2 or not to be condescending at a tournament describe someone who's a lot better than them as that bracket demon. Um, I think there's a difference between players who you probably just are not good enough to beat and players who are your bracket demon, right? I think our advice today only pertains to the people who destroy you that are around your same, level or proficiency at the game, or maybe a little bit better or worse, right?
cool. Well, that leads well into the first type of bracket demon, which is the better player. So, I mean, often there's going to be players that are better than you, but I mean, some
But
a
that's not even that's
psychological,
but
yeah.
I'm saying it's like not even a bracket demon though.
Well,
That's like not even
uh,
that's just a guy who's better than you. There's nothing demonic about there's nothing like tormenting about that. That's just like, okay, you're just not there yet, bud.
well, I mean, consider this, right? Consider the case of like basically there's two tiers of players. There's like maybe like a good faction of low level players, and then a strong regiment of like medium high level players. If you are the top and by far clearly the top of the low level, but not good enough to be a part of the mid high level, you are going to think that some of the lower players in the mid high level are your bracket demons. I think that that's just like psychologically the way that that like the brain likes to look at it. Because if you think about overcoming an obstacle, if you think about a goal that you need to set, in terms of, it's very common for people to look at the next frontier
Huh.
as basically the next players. So even then, like if like I understand your advice to basically say, you know what, you shouldn't think of these people as your bracket demons, and you're not completely wrong. Like they're going to beat you, like maybe 7, 8, 9 times out of 10. But for some people, the way that it's been contextualized for them, I don't necessarily like. I think it makes sense if they think that way.
You know, sure. I think you almost just convinced me there, Avy. I suppose it's a matter of perspective. I guess who am I to say what is and isn't demonic according to you? But I don't know. I don't really.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
I
yeah,
we're kind of arguing about semantics here about like how broad
yeah,
the term is. We can we
exactly,
can we
yeah.
can we can observe it through the lens of a player being distinctly better than you, but to a point,
Yeah.
right, where you challenge them week in week out. I guess if I lose to MK Leo after beating these Bible Camp jabronis, if I lose to MK Leo 25 times in a row, I'm gonna be pretty upset at the end of it, even though I know he's better than me, right? So
Yeah, there's gonna be some
you're
demonic
right.
qualities like showing up there.
Okay,
So
I'm sold.
okay,
I'm sold.
awesome, cool. Now that we're on the same page, we can talk about I think what like kind of factors into your point that I think you were trying to get across is how do you get past this? And this one's I mean, this one's kind of easy. You just because this one you just have to let go and you have to just work. It's kind of like it is a holistic thing. If someone is fundamentally a better player than you, there's not one thing you have to work on. There's a like this smorgasbord of like random stuff that needs to like be improved in your play before you even get to their level. So this one is actually not solved with anything with like any like mentality change or like practice change other than just being consistent and letting go.
But maybe there is like value in approaching the situation in terms of bracket demons, I don't know how to generalize that. Uh because when you evaluate another opponent as a demon of yours to slay or a dragon or whatever, you can kind of focus on them in a way that's very conducive to progress. Let's talk
Hmm.
about MKLeo, for instance. If I really wanted to beat him and he was at my local and we played all the time, there's steps I could take that would improve my Smash game in a way that would be so that I would have a better success rate against him individually, right? So I could learn the Joker matchup. I can literally spend hours of my practice time studying his VODs, studying his tendencies, looking at our VODs and seeing, okay, what is he punishing of mine? And kind of, learning about your habits and his habits as they pertain to when the two of you guys fight, right? And that is a way to learn Smash, is to like, yeah, I know like Pew Pew and SFAT always say they would just beat the hell out of each other, and their styles kind of formed in opposition to each other in a really beautiful, organic way. And you'll see it all the time where somebody has like their buddy who they play with all the time. Maybe their buddy, one of the two friends, is way better than the other. But in tournaments, sometimes it's still kind of close between those two because their styles have adapted to each other as opposed to in a general improvement sense. Right. And I think when you target a better player, like let's say there's a really good Diddy Kong player in your region, well, when you really invest time in that specific matchup, and you theory craft around that premise, I think that your success rate goes, theoretically spikes, uh, but perhaps at the expense of overall development as a player.
You have sold me on that too. I mean, that's something that I think was like sitting there in the back of my mind, but I was afraid to recommend it at the cost of basically saying that it devolves into maybe developing habits that only work against that one better player. I think that it depends on what your goals are, right? Because for some people, like maybe like beating the best player in their region, it is pretty much the pinnacle, and they don't foresee themselves going out to like bigger events to play like a wider swath of players, and maybe that is kind of their end game. In that scenario, I completely agree with you, but maybe maybe there's like some kind of like nice middle ground there, because like I think that a lot of the time when I have like used that format to beat a bracket demon of mine, I've often developed things that don't really work well against other players.
Yeah, I think you have a unique perspective on that. Just for some background to the BTM audience, like AV was definitely the kind of player who would uh download individual players, right? But I would say relative to how good of a player you were, I think it's safe to say that you didn't really perform out of region whenever you would travel, to the level that you'd be expected to perform, right? Because we all knew how amazing you were, but I think part of what makes you an amazing player is your ability to download someone's deepest inhibitions and tendencies, and then like apply that knowledge long term against them week in week out, right? Where so I think perhaps like you relying on that sort of individual dissection against not all these people are your bracket demons, but your regular opponents who you wanted to beat desperately. And I think you relied on that style in a way that actually um blunted your ability to adapt on the fly, and or
Yeah.
dulled. I don't know if blunted is a
So,
word, but
so I actually that was like a really interesting transformation that I went through, and I mean I want to err on the side of brevity here because I think we do have some other stuff to get here, but I think there's a really cool chunk of meat that we can dig our teeth into, because I think that I realized in myself that I was actually way better at just downloading someone and like destroying them based off of like information over 7, 8, 9, 10 sets or friendly sessions. And I hated this about myself. Like because people would just label me as like the person who could beat everyone in their region, but no one outside. So overall, over time, I realized that what skills I had to basically download people could be generalized to beating players that I've never played before. I sharpened my ability to download someone quicker. I instead of like focusing on downloading someone over a long period of time, I basically tried to accelerate it. I all of like the different models in my head that I use to like figure out someone's playstyle. I completely generalized them to like within the scope of a set. So what I did was I completely threw out everything that I knew about downloading someone over time, and every time that I thought I would download someone in a friendly session or in a or like in someone like that I've played before like a ton of times, I would mentally throw that away. And I became so much better at just figuring out stuff on the fly. And now I think I wouldn't classify myself as one of those types of players, although maybe I wouldn't be as good as at my old style of play. So I think that there is always a path forward in terms of using the things that you're good at and transforming them into ways that into ways to make yourself a more like holistic and well-rounded player.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Well, I mean, like you said, I think it can be worth pursuing very specific training to beat an individual, right? And I think that is kind of what it takes to beat someone that's a lot better than you that you'll consistently have to play. Like you really have to understand the matchup if you want any success at all, right? And then those lessons you can apply to the rest of Smash, as long as you look at them in the correct context, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you contextualize everything that you learn.
Yeah, absolutely. But I absolutely agree that that like there's this there like the whole there's this really crazy trade-off that you always have to make about like what am I like optimizing for, right? It's like am I do you want to be someone that wins against their like the people they know all the time, or do you want to be someone that can adapt on the fly?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, man. It's like when you're playing and when you're practicing, like I think practice gets talked about in this way that's kind of blanket. Like, yeah, I practice for an hour, I practice, but not all practice is the same. Like my my eighth grade basketball coach would always say, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, right? Which I always kind of liked. uh, in a dumb sort of way. But even then, okay, what constitutes perfect practice? What's more valuable to be spending time on? Like my tech skill? Maybe I should be practicing my counterpick character. Maybe I should be practicing like a secondary. Maybe I should be practicing like ledge trapping or it's like, well, how do you know what to prioritize? I have no I have no damn idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I mean, going even one level deeper, like not knowing what to prioritize, like what kind of like mentality should you go in with? Like what I said, it's like I would actively throw away stuff I'd learned about other players. Like or I'd try to limit stuff that I know I'm getting away with only because I'm reading a habit that they've formed. Or what I do, which is in my opinion the strongest thing to do, is to tell people immediately when you notice something. So I think this goes into the idea of perfect practice. Whenever you have a practice partner, the moment that you notice something, don't just use it to destroy them over and over again once you figured out something so deep in their playstyle, because that's actually only hurting you. So this goes into the idea when you're the better player or when you've figured out something that they haven't, immediately tell them, because that makes them better and it will in turn make you better as well.
Yeah, I was kind of messing with this guy at my local last week because I was playing Pokemon Trainer and practicing, and he was playing Zero Suit, and he's a former Pokemon Trainer main, so I was just trying to pick his brain, see what I could learn about like some of the bread and butters and stuff. And he was like, "Hey, I don't like how you're using withdrawal as Squirtle. Like you're using it in a way that's super punishable." But the thing is, I kept hitting him with it. Like he wasn't punishing it, so I was like, "Dude, I'm not gonna stop doing it until you punish it." So I hit him with it like 5 times in a row. Well, no, I used other moves in between, but like the 5 times I used it, next I hit him with it, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, "Okay, I get your point." And it was kind of a funny moment. Like, yeah, like, um, you know, I appreciate him pointing it out, but also, yeah, like punish their thing. And if they don't get the message, then you could tell them like, "Hey, bro, I'm this is something that you keep using incorrectly, right?"
Yeah, it's kind of a cool like inverse example of that, which is that's really hilarious. But
But
yeah,
I,
go for it, man.
thank you. I do want to say um, that I'm a big advocate, and this is like, the bracket demon who's simply better than you. Actually, pretty much all types of bracket demons, um, kind of make me advocate for like project based learning, right? Like I've been dabbling with some HTML recently. I've been trying to learn how to code a little bit and do some web development, and yeah, I'm all self taught, just a dude reading online guides and stuff. But when I was trying to learn, I was thinking, okay, what's the best way to go about this? And like there's different things you can do. You can buy like an HTML dictionary, and you can kind of try to learn all of the different components of the programming language, right? Or you can just kind of, try to build a damn website and see what happens and see what you learn along the way. And for me, anyway, sort of just trying to build something or trying to create something and then picking up important nuggets along the way has always worked better for me than just trying to take like a comprehensive, holistic approach to learning something. And maybe like bracket demons are a really good way to teach us and to motivate us to do things in Smash. Like maybe if there is like that Diddy Kong player who's just messing you up week in, week out, the stuff that you learn along the way of trying to solve that Diddy Kong matchup, might be a really time efficient and outcome efficient way for you to practice things in general.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a really good point in the sense of learning how learning so much about yourself and introspecting and looking within yourself and figuring out what your habits are. And this kind of plays into, I think, the next type of bracket demon, which is the playstyle counter. There's this person is likely around your same skill level, maybe plus or minus a little, but plus or minus a few skill points here and there. Um, but this person plays in a way that just perfectly counters you. If you lose to campy players, they're the campy player. If you lose to people who constantly rush you down, they're the ultimate rush down. Uh they're the ultimate rush down person, right, regardless of what character they play. So understanding how you learn and understanding taking what you said about like how like maybe looking at this as a project and understanding how you break things apart is also really important when you're looking at people who counter your playstyle.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I think I learned a lot about myself playing UAV in Smash 4. Smash 4 was a game where your play style, well, I think was in many ways I think more pronounced than in Ultimate. I think in Ultimate, like, um, almost, well, maybe I won't go ahead and say that, but at least it felt that way to me. I can't really pinpoint why, but like playing against you, for instance, in Smash 4, you were infuriating for me because I was a very bait and punish type player. I just waited for my opponents to make a mistake and then I would hard punish, right? But you were like an extremely reactive sort of take one opportunity and run with it kind of player. And so like I would be trying to bait and punish you, but you wouldn't take any of the bait. You would just wait longer than I would. I'd be like, Avi, just make a mistake so I can punish it, please. But you just wouldn't. You would just stand there and look at me menacingly like that SpongeBob episode. And there was this other character in our region named Inflammatory, the legend, God bless him. And this dude played like just a ball of fire that would just be running towards you. And he would kind of chew you up because like he didn't care if you were waiting around. He would be doing super safe shield pressure. He would just be dancing around you, and he was kind of your bracket demon for a while, right? But meanwhile, he never took a set off me for years because I would just not really be too phased by the fireball. I would just kind of bait him to do something stupid, and then I would just hit him with a cloud back air or two. And it was kind of funny that through the three of us, but specifically me fighting you, I learned a lot about myself just because your play style was so infuriating for me. Like I guess like the logical next step is like, okay, his play style is infuriating. Why? What is it about my play style that just gets so countered by his? That kind of a thing is such a natural next step. So I think that like that kind of play style counter bracket demon is one of the best opportunities to use an AV adage, introspect, and to kind of understand self.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I completely agree. I love that you brought that story up because that rock paper scissors of us three exposed so much to each individual one of us, and we were able to pretty much take away so much from not only like what we sucked at or what we couldn't play well into, but also what we were good at. So it
Yeah.
gave us so much knowledge about ourselves, and I was always and I was always so frustrated because like I see like other people being able to beat this guy. They beat this ball of fire that inflammatory was. But I was so frustrated. I'm like, why? It's like I really liked waiting. I really liked waiting, like waiting around and like being super patient, being campy, like trying things over and over, like trying things like that, like playing really frustratingly and to the point where I'll just do things over and over again until it works, but you can't really do that when someone doesn't give you the space to. So I would never really learn how to basically play around with like striking critically. I would always just go for a bunch of like high percentage plays, but I would never like wait like a snake and strike at the one moment that was critical. I would kind of just like basically like fling myself around like a bear, hoping that with like sheer probability I'll hit something.
Yeah.
And in that was such a mind blowing thing for me when I realized I'm like, wait, there's more to waiting than just like kind of like occupying space. It's
Yeah, you
also
have to
about
make reads. You have to commit. Like you
yeah,
have to take calculated risks,
yep,
which I think is one thing that you learned. And now, like, funny enough, I think all three of us, this triangle that I painted, all three of us are much more rounded players. I mean, I think Ultimate also brought that out in us. But you now, for instance, AV, you play a much more aggressive style. You you take more risks. Of course, that's just kind of the nature of Donkey Kong in this game and Joker. Kind of forced you to do those things, but um, yeah, I think that like in order to really, I think one of the best ways to expand your own playstyle is to be introduced to its vulnerabilities and its limitations, and that's why like that kind of playstyle counter is the most frustrating bracket demon because it's someone who like maybe you're beating all the people that beats the person that's beating you. So it's like, okay, it can't be that this person's like objectively better than me. So I should be able to figure it out, but I can't. Like that's
yeah.
the maddening thing about it. I think a lot of people can relate to that. But in terms of like solutions of solving this, right? Of like solving a playstyle counter, right? There's a couple ways to go about it. The first gut reaction that most people will just opt to is they'll say, okay, I'm picking up a secondary, or I'm going to do counter pick, right? And I think, especially in Ultimate, I think in Melee and other Smash games, it's a little bit harder to do this. But in Ultimate, I think that's a really good idea. I think that, like, if you look at the top level of play, almost every top player has a couple different characters in the pocket because the cast is so homogenized. Characters aren't super hard. I mean, there's certainly some exceptions, but there's a lot of really easy to use top tiers that might be able to, to counterpick this demon. And when you play a different character, your play style will change. Like, sure, you'll probably retain some deeply held tendencies, but like, look, a Cat and Falcon player is not going to play the same way if he is using Duck Hunt, right? Or if he's using uh, young Link. It's just apples and oranges. So maybe, that playstyle counter won't be as significant when modified under these artificial um, boundaries. AV, can you think of another solution?
Um, I think other than just kind of like I think other than introspecting or picking a secondary, the only other like direct solution to it would be to go to the person that counters your playstyle and play them as much as you can to basically and see if you can get some really nice productive sessions in where you really get to perfectly expose yourself and not through just kind of sitting around and meditating on a couch. Like I think it's you really need someone else also kind of like walking you through why they're exposing you in order for you to actively learn this. So, and I think I absolutely love. So I just want to also kind of give a plus one to your suggestion about playing a new character because I do agree that it's sometimes there's some characters that you just can't play the same way, and it sometimes does allow you to explore a different part of your mind that you may have not thought about in the first place. So I think other than that, I don't see any direct paths forward, although there might be some nuanced stuff here and there.
Right. I think that like the way that you laid out, like actually just working through it and figuring out what their play style is actually doing to counter yours, like on a literal basis, like, oh, you know what, I picked too many of this certain option at the ledge, like a normal get up where I jump from ledge too often. And this guy is just amazing at catching onto those ledge habits. Therefore, I should be more, you know, stuff like that where it's like, okay, there's actually like a solution to this. Maybe I should just mix up my ledge options more, like actually get that stuff out of the way. Picking a character is an artificial solution, but it's a potential solution. Just because it's artificial doesn't mean that you shouldn't advise it. And I think that, I mean, speaking of characters, AV, I think that another kind of category of bracket demon is just someone who plays a character that you either A, hate to fight against, or B, your character has a terrible matchup in. I know my I was at my last local, and my girlfriend Courtney she came just to kind of support. She was driving home from work, and the local was kind of on her way from work, and so she stopped by and just to cheer me on. And I was telling her, I was like, "Yeah, Courtney, today I'm just playing the wolf and the Pokemon trainer. I wanna give the Inkling some break. I'm just not really enjoying the character very much." And she's like, "Oh, well," she loves the Inkling. She's like, "Oh, okay, well, you do you, Dane. I trust you. Whatever makes you happy." And then my next match, the guy who I'm playing against on stream, insta locks Captain Falcon. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll have to use the Inkling here real quick. And my Inkling tore him up. He looked so clueless in the matchup, and I mean, no offense to the guy, that matchup's terrible for Falcon, and I love it. It's really fun as Inkling, and that guy, when he shook my hand, he was pissed. He clearly was tilted. He hated the matchup, and rightly so. But I tell this story because when I saw that guy's face, I just I just thought about all those times that people have complained about like their character versus a different character. And I won game 1. He could have counterpicked me game 2, but maybe he doesn't have a secondary, or maybe like he just hates fighting Inkling in general, as many people do justifiably. So, you know, I couldn't really blame him, but I will say this. If you play someone that routinely beats you with a character you hate, you have to love whatever character you use in that matchup more than you hate the character that you're fighting against, right? Like you have to like learn that matchup like the back of your hands. Think of like Michael Jordan would always say, make your weaknesses your strengths. Like I want you to master that character, learn everything about that character. And if you find that after 3 or 4 times of losing to this person in a given matchup, and you start blaming your character, or you start blaming like, that specific matchup of characters, like, oh man, I hate using Roy against Inkling, for instance. Well, maybe it's time to swap. Like that's when okay, I'm not gonna play this matchup anymore. Like, I think that the moment you start hating your own character is the time to swap.
I think that I'll generalize that slightly. I'll kind of like take that a little one step a little higher in the sense that if you've consistently like hated on your character, not just like one time or one or two times, because I've had times where I'm going into the Pokemon Trainer or Palutena or Pichu or Pikachu matchups or Greninja, and I'm saying, "Oh my god, this is awful. This is a miserable experience." And in three, I think I listed five characters or five or four characters, but in three of those four or five instances, I've overcome all of those issues. Well, maybe not every single one, but I've found ways to get in on those extremely hard matchups. However, my mentality wasn't perfect going into like maybe some of the first experiences I had in bracket or in friendlies. And I was thinking like, wow, my character's holding me back. But I'd always kind of like shake myself after that. I'm like, no, I'm determined. Like, so if you kind of get these waves of determination to kind of overcome these problems, which I do because I absolutely love Donkey Kong. I don't know why, I just do.
I don't know
I don't
why.
know
Like I
what.
heard that sentence like for some reason out of context. Like I was listening to the whole time. But like I when you said I just love Donkey Kong, for some reason I heard that in a way that like wasn't ready for you to talk about a like Smash Bros character. It
What did
sounded
I
almost like
say? Like,
romantic or
oh
lustful.
my
I don't know
god,
if it was the way that you actually articulated it,
like
but
I've essentially, I
yeah,
don't
the
know.
Jungle Fever AV. You like the big DK.
I mean, look, I've essentially been in a long term relationship with this guy for like 3.5 years. So at that point, like I may as well be romantically inclined. Not to go into any
any
implications here.
any
Yeah,
excruciatingly specific details.
yeah.
AV.
I'm not.
Well,
You
look,
know,
man.
we're gonna cut this off right here.
I love a man with a treehouse too. AV. There's nothing wrong with that, man. Hey,
No, but it
did
in
you
any
give him your
case,
banana horde?
uh, I'm not going into this. Too many
Okay.
metaphorical implications.
Okay.
I think but maybe I would. In any
Okay,
case,
AV, quick Donkey Kong pop quiz. All right,
okay.
Mister. Like it's like like when you're dating a girl, and then like her mom's like, hey, do you know her middle name? And you're like, oh shit, I should have. Yeah, what is it? Grace. And then it happens to be Grace, and you're like, oh hell yeah. But so this is what I'm doing to AV. You're sitting here dating the DK. Now give me this. What is the name of his aquatic animal buddy?
It's something to do with fencing. It's on guard. On guard.
Okay, nice, nice, nice. Okay, one more one. Okay, what is the name of or what instrument does Dixie Kong play?
Um, the banjo.
Wah, wah, wah. Dude, she plays electric guitar, dog. You see, no
Oh, she
nothing.
plays the.
50% is an F, AV.
All right, man. I don't know all of the lore. In fact, I know a disappointingly low amount of the lore. So I
We
don't.
still need to get like a
It,
BTM like Donkey Kong Country stream sesh
yeah,
for the fans. I think zero
absolutely.
people will watch that, but I'm down just so that I can watch you play.
Absolutely, man. But in any case, just to kind of like loop back, we it's you have to really love your character. Like you said, like you have to love the character more than you hate playing these matchups. So I think that's a really good way to look at it. And this type of bracket demon, which is the character counter, is really only solved by one of those two things. This is a very simple one to solve. Either you get a secondary or you love your character enough that you're just going to stick it out. But
Right.
that's a
Wait,
time
can
thing.
I say
It's a
something?
time thing.
I think
Yeah.
that it's like important not like to not conflate the difference between loving your character and loving the matchup. Like I
Mm.
I was playing like there was a point in when I was still in Santa Barbara where my two most common matchups like in grand finals was Inkling versus Lucina and Inkling versus Mega Man. I hate both those matchups so much, right? It's like the style of Inkling that I have in my game plan. Perhaps and this is a weakness of mine. I'm too stubborn to adapt or to change. I don't really know why or how, but Either way, when I play those matchups, I have no fun with Inkling. I'm like, I just feel terrible. I hate the character. Whereas if I play like a bunch of different matchups, I'm like, oh, that was so fun. I love this character. And I think it's kind of important to make that distinction.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree because that's really the reason that's really important is because like sometimes you can also like be completely unsure about any of like the good matchups too, right? Because like what if like you just really enjoy playing your character in a swath of amazing matchups, but then you absolutely hate it in like even the like in like even like the even or like slightly bad ones.
That reminds me of like the show The Bachelor, or like what is that? Like Love Island. It's like super big, where it's
Oh
like
no.
they get these two like attractive people and they put them in like Barcelona, and they're like eating swordfish, and then like it's and then they're like, "Hey, girl, do you like this guy?" And the girl's like, "Yeah, he's pretty cool. We're eating swordfish. We're in Barcelona. Van Gogh, he's doing his thing. No, Van Gogh, was he Dutch? That's beside the point. Picasso, my boy Pablo, he's doing his thing. And I'm describing this very poorly, but you get what I'm saying. You have all these sexy people that are on the beach, and it's like, well, yeah, they're gonna fall in love. Like if you want like a compelling reality television show where people fall in love, like put two people like in Oakland. You know what I mean? Put them in a tent outside because the gentrification has made them lose their lease, and now they're living in the streets. And it's like, well, how are they getting by? Are you guys in love? Like, if you love each other in those
Oh my
conditions,
god.
then goddamn,
Yeah.
that's something to celebrate. But come on, man, they're eating like fish sticks in Barcelona. Yeah, I'm in love with all these people too. And
Yeah,
and
that's
that's the
fair.
thing. Like when you're playing that good matchup, if you're playing Inkling, Cat and Falcon, you're like, man, I love Inkling. Nah, you're just that Barcelona basic ass bitch who doesn't know what real love is.
Yeah, I think you explained it in a much more beautiful way than I could, but that's exactly what I wanted to get across.
And shout outs to
And
Chris Hansen, man. No, wait, not Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen, no, no,
what?
no, 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 no. No. What's his name? Chris Harrison? Who's the host of The Bachelor, dude? Host of
Oh
Bachelor.
my god.
It is Chris Harrison, not to be confused with Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen, who I do much prefer, actually. Speaking of legends, that
Oh
guy's
my
that guy's a
god.
class act. Didn't he get busted? Didn't Chris Hansen didn't he like get to go to jail or something?
Dude, wasn't that guy like a murderer or something?
No, you're thinking of Charlie Manson, dude. Or Charles Manson. Chris Hansen was the guy who he was on To Catch a Predator. He's like, sit
Oh,
down.
okay, never mind.
Yeah. Come on.
I we're so mixed up on
we're,
our
we're all over the place at this point.
Okay. In any case, yeah, I think the idea to get past character bracket teams is pretty straightforward. You either are in love or you should really consider a different relationship. But in any case, there is a fourth and final type of bracket demon that I kind of outlined for us today, and this one's the diciest. It's the psychological, subconscious, evil, like the most actual like internal demon that exists. It's the person that gets on your nerves for no like material reason. Like this person makes you mad by the way that they walk, maybe their haircut, maybe they're using a little too much product in their hair. Like everything for some reason is making you mad. And
I love this.
and the thing is that like this is probably more common than people think, in the sense that like in that this is probably not something that just came out of nowhere. This is like something that has developed over time. Maybe this bracket demon was a type 1 through 3, and it just evolved into this thing where you start hating this person for all of these things that aren't very irrational.
There's also a
So, yeah.
justifiable like some people like I oh man I mean I've played I don't really dislike that many people in this Smash scene. 99% of people I've met have been really nice and cool, but there's been a couple of people I really don't like. As as is natural, that I've had to also play in tournament. And like playing against someone that you kind of really don't like, there's a different layer to it. There's something more personal that can kind of like cloud your judgment, your ability to kind of take the information mid match at surface value. Um, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I mean that is another even like subcategory of this in the sense that there's like all of these out of game factors now. It's no longer you versus the character and the controller. It's of the other character. It's now you like versus like everyone like cheering you on because everyone maybe doesn't want this person to win and everyone doesn't like this person's play style, or like maybe your friends like, or maybe your like someone, this person wronged or beats your friends all the time. Like there's so many like external factors that get in the way. And the reason this one is so hard is because it's all of these things that you can't control outside of the game. But I mean, that is where a lot of your techniques to de-stress and put yourself in the and put yourself in the game that we've taught over the course of this show are really going to help. That's where the meditation comes into play. That's where all of like the in like the out of game preparation, like what you're eating, like how you're fueling, and like where your brain state is at. That's all of the preparation and the important stuff that goes into countering these psychological bracket demons.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to bring it back to, like, no matter what kind of bracket demon you have, there's only a couple things that you can do, right? You can prepare like we've outlined, like this episode specifically, learning matchups, really, really allowing yourself to explore character counterpick options and investigating your own play style, right? But when it comes down to it, when you have the sticks in your hand and you're sitting next to them in front of the setup, your name is called, their name is called, and you have to play. You can't think of it in terms of this bracket demon. When you're one hit away from ending the set and you're gonna win, or one hit away from losing, you can't be thinking in the back of your mind, "Oh no, like, I'm what if I win this? I might just win this," or "Oh no, I'm gonna lose this." You cannot be thinking about the match in terms of it's you versus your bracket demon. At the end of the day, it's your character versus theirs. And trying to stay grounded, stay centered, and to maintain that kind of mental toughness that we preach at BTM is you know everything in these situations, because of course all of your other emotional stressors will only be more of an issue given this context.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty heavy one. Like it's not this is something that it's pretty much something that takes you out of the game. It's something that a lot of people are I think it's something that even I struggle with this a ton, especially when I'm about to make upsets, when I'm about to get upset. Your brain wanders and your brain uses like power that it doesn't really need to, thinking about the future. So honestly, being able to have productive thoughts in like during the game is super important. I mean, something that I do to avoid my mind from wandering too much is reflecting a lot and taking like not like really really excessively long breaks in between games, but really reflecting on each game allows you to be a lot more productive in a set. Reflecting on what specifically you got hit by, what specifically worked, what didn't, and then that kind of places your mind in so much of more of a productive like mindset that even if you're in these like last hit scenarios, you are still thinking in a very structured way. Obviously, it's going to vary from tournament to tournament depending on on the external factors, but doing anything you can, anything that you can to get yourself in a like a structured mindset. Or if you're not like that and you work best in like in ultimate chaos, like listen to death metal, listen to some like crazy hypnotic trance beforehand. Like, I don't know, just there's so many different ways that people like kind of like get themselves into that zone. So understand what gets you there and then make that your formula.
For sure, bro. Well, I think that we've kind of polished off this topic as best as we could. Anyway, it was fun when to talk about it. Yeah, I was a little skeptical that we'd be able to talk for an hour about bracket demons, but the truth is, it's actually a very deep, prevalent topic, and I'm surprised we actually haven't talked about it sooner. It was fun, man. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really cool, especially because so much of it like crosses over too. Like often it's not like only like one type of the four that we lined out. It's usually like multiple. Like it's like sometimes it's like all maybe it's all four in some cases. Like
Yeah.
so I mean all of this could apply to someone's situation. So being able to kind of pick it apart and like find out which maybe is the biggest pain point out of these things is hopefully what people are able to take away.
Well, sure thing, buddy. Speaking of things to take away, we have some answers for some questions submitted via the BTM Discord. If you, yeah, you want to be featured on the show in even a small way, go ahead and join the BTM Discord and go to podcast dash questions and submit a question, and perhaps AV and I will answer it on the show. And then now, AV, if you want to be quiet on the mic so I can edit this.
Oh, I was just gonna send one at you,
Oh, you already have them prepared?
dude. I'm a fucking god.
Well,
You-
are you gonna copy and paste them?
oh, I was just gonna be the one to read them off today since
Okay.
I just make it easy on you.
Okay. I'll just mark it and then I'll say it. AV,
Yeah.
watch for our
Al-
first question.
Also, like, there's that really awkward silence. Could you just like edit that?
Yep,
You
I
you,
already
you know
marked it.
you know what I'm talking about. All right,
Yep,
thanks.
I already
That's
marked it.
been
If I do a mention. All right.
absolutely
Three,
god.
2, 1. AV, why don't you fire off that first question, buddy?
Yeah, sure thing, man. So from Fab, we got I'm still hesitant on taunts in competitive sets. I'm learning goofy techs and such because I know messing with the opponent is a huge factor, but I have far too much respect for my Smash opponents to do it right now. So compared to your average League of Legends player, who I think that Fab thinks does not have enough respect for their opponents, what would be your opinion to basically figure out whether you should taunt or not taunt against someone?
In my opinion, respecting your opponent is expecting that expecting that their psychology is strong enough to handle being taunted against, right? If my opponent gets frazzled by a taunt, and if me taunting will make them play worse, in my mind, taunting is an optimal thing I should do. It'll increase my chances of winning. Every competitor, when they're behind the sticks, should be focused on one thing, and that's getting the job done, getting the W. Right? That's the integrity of competition. Everybody's pushing themselves to each other's breaking points, and of course, within the rules. Right? I'm not going to punch my opponent mid-set in real life, but within the boundaries of the game, anything that you can do to get an edge psychologically, otherwise, is something that you should consider doing. I don't think it's a disrespectful thing. And I think if someone, I don't really taunt against my opponents in sets. I just haven't really found a need to. But if someone taunted against me, I wouldn't be offended. It's literally a button on their controller. Like to get offended by that, I think is a sign of a super weak mentality. And if it's allowing you, if it's causing you to be triggered, that's a really good red flag of like, okay, well, what's the deeper issue here? Why am I getting tilted so easily? I think I honestly, if someone taunts against you and you get angry, you should thank them for reminding you that you have like some mental, adjustments to make.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, one thing that I do is I try not to taunt, mostly because I don't like the idea of people. I think it causes me more anxiety the fact that I'm annoying someone and it actually takes me away from the game. Like then I start thinking about annoying them, and I actually don't think about my own gameplay, and that's why I don't taunt. Unless I'm like really like if someone's if like it's a friend or if someone that I know and then I'm really destroying them, maybe I taunt just because it's like it's
Yeah,
just
just
because
for
we
the
know each
memes.
other. Yeah, but also but on the flip side, I love it when people taunt against me because it shows a lot of personality, and I do enjoy kind of seeing that fire. And I actually like I try to whenever someone does taunt, I try to figure out what kind of taunt it was, and then I try to like exploit that in certain ways. Like
Yeah.
if it was an aggressive taunt, or if it was like a oh I'm just trying to poke at you taunt, like I'm and then sometimes I try not to spend too much time on it, but sometimes it's given me huge like huge ins because I figured out what kind of taunt it was, and then I just basically destroyed them because they became like way too aggressive, or they became like way too purposely campy,
Oh,
like
sure.
stuff like that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the funny thing. It's like I don't know, dude. People are just so soft. People are so fragile. Competitively, like I come from a sports background, Av. Not to tout it or something, but when I played high school basketball, for instance, or college basketball, it's brutal. I was a relatively. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall, but in basketball, it doesn't really mean that much. And I'm a ginger. So like I didn't get a lot of respect initially from my opponents until the game started. And, getting like the psychological edge on your opponent, untucking their jersey, stepping on their sneakers, like elbowing them in the kidney, like kind of these unspoken, not really against the rules, you know, dirty tactics. That
What?
was just part of the territory.
How is
Everybody was
elbowing someone in the kidney not like like why is that like allowed or why is that not illegal?
basketball's a contact sport, dude. When you're in the paint fighting for a rebound, there's elbows flying. You're getting bowed. You're getting kneed in the knee. You're getting, you
Okay, yeah,
know,
that's
it's
fair.
just
Yeah,
part of it. You're either gonna
there's a gray area. There's a gray area there for
there's a
sure.
gray area for sure, but
Yeah.
if you give them more of that gray area than you take up, then you're at a disadvantage, right? So it becomes one of those like prisoner's dilemmas where everybody ends up being violent towards each other as a result. And
Hey, nice usage. That is an accurate position of a prisoner's dilemma. Nice.
yes, yes, thank you, Av. But so I come from that background, and then people are like, oh well, he taunted. It's like, dude, grow up. Don't be a baby. That's my opinion. Av, fire off that next question.
Yeah, and then again, not to like kind of condescendingly say that was an accurate usage, just that so many people don't use the prisoner's dilemma correctly. So I know that you've used it well properly. So this wasn't condescending.
It was a bit condescending. It was a bit,
All
but
right,
I
fine.
was I was I was more condescending when I told people to grow up. So
Okay,
uh,
fair, absolutely fair. But in
so
any
we're
case,
both
let's
assholes.
yeah, we are. Let's fire up the next question. Hey BTM, this is from Tiger Man.
I love
Um,
Tiger Man's profile picture in the Discord. By the way, it's
yeah,
hilarious.
Tiger Man's awesome. He's also really really cool person in the community. As a player who wants to get better at Smash and enjoys the community's interactions with each other, I found myself investing way too much time in Smash and have been putting off other important IRL things. How and what would be a good method to have good time management in order to meet IRL necessities while still having quality time with Smash? Bonus, have you guys personally been in this situation, or is it just me?
You take the first crack at this one, Nobby.
Yeah, sure. I have definitely been in this situation. I think there was a point in college where the most important thing to me was being good at Smash. So I'd spend all of my time at other people's houses or inviting people over to play Smash. And I saw it affecting certain parts of my life, and I adjusted. The one of the things is like how did I just figure out a method to have good time management. It wasn't necessarily any like incredible breakthrough. It was more of the fact that like I slowly started seeing things slip away, and I made sure to catch it immediately when I saw things slip instead of just kind of letting it go. Something about Smash is that it's really easy to like watch time slip away in this like very like additive sense. Like it's always like one more game or like one more like or like oh just it's just this small friendly session before finals, or it's just like or oh yeah, I'll just get in some quick games before work. It's because of how like little commitment there is to start it up. There's this huge like sticking factor that it has when you do get started. So like because the barrier to entry is so like is basically incredibly like low, what you usually just find yourself like slipping into it over and over again unless you cut the sources off at the or rather cut things off at the source. And that's what I did. I pretty much like I ignored all of my potential like ways to play Smash when I really needed to get stuff done. I I basically either I mean I wouldn't necessarily like tell my friends please don't play Smash with me because I don't want to put that on them. But I mean I actually don't think that's really that bad if you have friends that'd be willing to do that for you. But really, you should be looking at it from yourself and being able to say, okay, I'm gonna not look at this group chat. I'm gonna mute this Smash group chat for a bit, or I'm gonna put my GameCube controller in the closet for a bit. Like that's really the way to do it because the I think starting up Smash is just way too easy. It's not like a game of like League of Legends where you have to like mentally prepare yourself for like 45 minutes and deal with
Wait for
four
the
other people.
queue and yeah, do
Yeah,
the
wait for
champion
its queue.
select and everything.
Yep, because like I mean, as bad as Smash's netcode is, you can get matched up with another player in in like a minute or less. So I
Right.
mean, yeah,
Yeah, I struggle to have like any strong answer on this one because I don't know. It depends on what's going on in your life, right? Like it depends on what if you have a kid, right? If you have a newborn baby. My sister, she's 9 months pregnant right now. Any day we're gonna have a new addition to the family, and so this has been on my mind recently of like the idea of having a baby, and it's like, look, man, if you're addicted to addicted to Smash and you really want to engage and you love it, uh, and you're playing instead of changing a baby's diaper the moment it needs to be changed, yeah, you should sell your Switch if it's that strong of a temptation for you and you really are neglecting other parts of your life. Um, but yeah, you have to kind of evaluate what you have going on in your life and how much time you can afford to spend on it. And I think that if you're if you're trying to quit or if you're trying to sort of make time for other things, but struggling, you keep on coming back to Smash, maybe, just spend time on a structured way. Okay, I'll only play Smash with this person or at this time or in a way that kind of organically limits you. Like, for instance, one of the ways I've been losing weight over the last few months is I'm not really sticking to a diet. I'm just making healthy life choices. But the one only structured thing I'm doing is intermittent fasting, where I can only eat between a certain hour window, and it really works for me. Maybe try that with Smash. Like you can only play on this day at this time, or on these days that time. You know what I mean? Take a more structured approach in that way.
yeah. I mean, I think that's all good advice. I don't think there's too much more to be said on that. I will also fire up the third question. Peon, I didn't give Peon the proper preparation this week,
Yeah,
so
well, AV didn't actually paste the questions into the document.
yeah, that's why I said it was my fault. But in any case, I will say the third one, and that is going to be from Westchester. Westchester, the homie, asks, "How do you effectively warm up? I feel like it's best to jump in and take my licks, but it's usually seems like it takes like an hour to feel ready. Training mode's also an option to at least prepare the hands, but it kind of skips on the mental part of warming up. Are there strategies I can employ to speed this up, or is it something that I just get better at? I'm actually really interested in in basically in your answer, Peon, because I think you have a better answer than me here.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's warm up routine is different. Um, so I would say experiment, try a couple different methods, and then see what works for you. There's also a bit of superstition that comes along with that sort of thing, right? For me, if I'm playing at a local or a regional or a major or whatever, before the day's events, I will always spend a few days in training mode. Even if it's 3 hours before the event, I'll practice my brain. I'll just go through all my movement, all my tech, all my breads and butters. I'll just do a little crash course of everything I know and perform and might perform throughout the tournament. And I'll just do it all and until I feel good. I'll hit a combo a couple times in a row. And then I'll be okay, I'll end at a point where I'm happy. Okay, I did something cool. Okay. Pause, turn off the switch. And that's phase one. Phase two is I will try to play friendlies, or if there's like a doubles event or a squad strike event before the actual singles bracket, I will always try to enter that, even if it's like I'm teaming with a stranger or some guy who's terrible and we're not going to do that well. I'll say, hell yeah, dude, let's enter. Because for me, that helps me with the mental side of things, of getting in the competitive atmosphere, understanding the landscape. When you go to a major, you're in that huge convention hall sometimes, or that kind of esportsy type arena. Well, that's a lot different than your couch. That's a lot different than your computer chair at home in front of your monitor. With your woman by your side, your ice cold drink. You know what I mean? Your radios playing the Beatles. All that is gone. You're in uncharted waters. So getting yourself accustomed to that environment is huge in terms of like feeling comfortable mid bracket, mid match. So get competitive in the environment that you're going to compete in as quickly and as long as you can without it, of course, exhausting you before the event.
I think you summed it up really well.
Thanks. Do you have anything to add?
Not really, because I just try to get I try to get some friendlies in. That's my warm up. I was that's what
Okay, cool.
like that's my warm up for tournament. I mean, at home I don't even think about warming up. I just
play.
I just play it. So that's why I said, okay, you probably have a better answer to this than me.
Okay,
But,
well,
yeah.
AV, I think that's all the time we have for this week. Where can people find you, my friend?
People can find me at A plus my long Indian last name, Vaidyanatha, on Twitter, A Vaidyanatha. And honestly, I don't expect you to know how to spell that. So you can find that exact Twitter handle on our podcast Twitter page, which is, what is it, Peon?
Well, that you'll find our actual podcast Twitter page, which surprisingly has a lot of followers relative to like how uninteresting our feed is. We need to spruce some things up, baby. We need to add some cheddar on that timeline, because like we almost just post like, hey, we have a new episode out, stuff like that. But it's given the lack of variety of content. We're growing strong, but you can find that Twitter handle at Beyond Metagame. That's right, at Beyond Metagame. The show you're currently listening to is called Beyond the Metagame, but Twitter doesn't give a fuck. Woo! And you can find my personal Twitter. That's right. You can tweet at me. Send me a DM. Send me your body. No, don't. At your body of work. I want to see your art, what you've created, what you've given to this world. That's at. What's wrong with me, Abhi? You gotta tie me down here. Well, no. I'm not going there. You can find me at Peon_BTM. That's right, Peon_BTM. That is Bravo, Tango, Mike. For all of you Disney fans, I watched Aladdin AV, the live action one with Will Smith as the genie. It was pretty
nice.
good.
Yeah, I get Naomi Scott's in there.
Is she Jasmine?
Yeah.
What beautiful. Great singing voice. Great dancer. Loved it. Anyway, if you're still listening to this, and God bless your soul if you are, frankly, consider joining our Patreon, because if you can tolerate us at this point, you would certainly love our sister show. It is a show we do less often than BTM, but it's called Beyond the Metagame, where we talk about everything but Smash Bros. If you, for whatever reason, enjoy AV's complete and utter incoherence, you're going to love that show. And you'll have access to some other perks. So that is, you'll find the Patreon information in our description below. And
yeah, I mean, not to cut in on there, but if you also really enjoy my my utter incoherence, you can hear some of that in the exclusive chat room that we have in our Discord. It's the lounge. It's got some cool people in there, so definitely come in and talk to us.
And guys, this is one last warning to enter the Beyond the Metagame tournament happening September 29th. It is going to be a star-studded occasion, okay? We have lots of homies signing up. Do you want to prove yourself that you are the most talented person listening right now? Well, now you have a chance. And also remember, guys, the Giuseppe Rivals of Aether giveaway happening. It'll be in the Discord. Contest submissions. Let's see the 1,000 words. Creative essay time, everybody. But after all that is said, I want to thank you guys for listening. As always, goodbye. This week's episode was made possible by BTM patrons Ferris, Theme Guy, Minlo, Big Tip, BK Otter, Danderson, Honk Lava, Giuseppe, Macatoon, Grandpa Rem, Robert, and Ultimate.